Apple sold 50 million iPads in 2024, and I'm sure that a majority of those are students that are now regretting their decisions. If that's you, or even if you're thinking about buying an iPad as a student, please watch this video first so you can get a feel about why people are actually regretting buying their iPads and why I think they're just not worth it coming from a college student. So when Apple first announced iPads, they didn't really know where to take it. It wasn't very clear what the iPad was going to be, what it was going to be used for, or anything like that. And with some time and a lot of updates, it seems that Apple now took the iPad a few years back into the student/college route. They added the Apple Pencil, they added multitasking, and they made it seem like competition for a MacBook. So when students such as myself were asked the question on whether we should buy a Mac or an iPad for school or college, we were left wondering which one was actually better. Now, if you're anything like me and you wanted the stylus, you wanted the Apple Pencil, you wanted to write here and there, and you thought that was a really cool feature, well, it kind of is, but at the same time, it isn't. Imagine you're in class and you're taking notes. It's all going well, it's going amazing, you're enjoying using your Apple Pencil, but then the teacher tells you have to open up a document, look at a YouTube video, or do something similar on another device. What device do you then use? This is a common issue that I had when I was in college, and it's the fact that I loved writing on the iPad, but then when I needed to pull up something on either a computer, which I didn't have, or on a phone or something similar, I was left using my iPad to pull up that document and then writing on my notebook, which then makes no sense because why did I buy the iPad in the first place if I'm already going to be using my notebook to write? It was this issue and so many more that ultimately led to me selling my iPad and then buying the MacBook I currently have. And since then, I haven't looked back and I haven't regretted it in any way. On the contrary, I've actually seen more and more people now saying how they bought iPads for college and then only a few months later ended up buying a MacBook. And the fact is that that's the truth for many people. I understand that the stylus, the Apple Pencil, all of that is really, really cool. But when you get the iPad in your hands, especially if you're a person that's using only the iPad for university and not using any type of computer, it isn't good enough. If you do have a computer, a MacBook, an HP, or something similar, and you want to use the iPad only to write and only for note-taking, then perfect. But if you are starting college and you're looking for the best $1,000 to spend, and you want to get a two-in-one, such as the iPad where you can write and look at things, you're going to find yourself more often than not writing on paper and using the iPad to look at different things online instead of using it as you intended, which is just as a note-taking device. Since a few years back, the question when going into college has always been a MacBook or an iPad. And because of that comparison and what everybody said, it had me actually considering and thinking that the iPad was gonna be like the MacBook. But the truth is they're completely different in so many ways. In an iPad, the keyboard sucks. It's really, really bad, and I hate to be so blunt about it, but it really is a bad keyboard. No matter if you're used to small computers, small trackpads, lower end computers, for example, it doesn't matter. The keyboard is so small, it's really annoying to use, and the trackpad as well. And let's say you are studying for exams or you're simply doing homework, you're gonna need to write somewhere. And if you're using the iPad to look at whatever it is your teacher assigned you, then you're not going to be able to use the iPad to write. It's one thing that I've seen so many tech YouTubers not mention, and it's the fact that if you don't have another device with you, then the iPad is going to be the only device you can use. Another big issue I have is the fact that all of the apps that you end up using on your iPad have to be iOS official apps, which at a first glance doesn't seem to be that big of a deal, since at the end of the day, you do use your phone and you still use all of those apps. So having them on the iPad wouldn't be any issue. But the thing is that having them on the iPad and having to use the cursor or the mouse is really annoying because the cursor isn't like a MacBook or a computer mouse where it's free and it can just kind of go everywhere on the screen and have a very precise point to it. On the iPad, the cursor isn't a cursor. It's sort of a little ball that follows around everywhere. And the issue with that is that it only highlights really big things. It isn't allowed to just kind of go wherever you want it to go. And because of that, it does create a lot of issues when many times I got so annoyed at the trackpad that I just took it off and then used my fingers, which then makes no sense because again, I bought the trackpad and the keyboard because I wanted to use it. So if it's so bad to the point that I paid $200 for a keyboard and I'm not even using it, then it's just a waste of money that I could have put somewhere else. In my opinion, what ends up happening with most college students nowadays that don't have a computer or a secondary device and they just go for the iPad straight away is that they end up using it for note-taking for a little bit in class, and then when assignments roll in, when they need to study, and then when they actually need to give the iPad some sort of hard use or multitask, they realize that it isn't good in any way. They end up buying a MacBook, use the Mac for everything, and then the iPad gets demoted to a Netflix device. And it's something that happened to me, it happened to my girlfriend, it happened to all of her friends as well, and there's countless people that I know in my class that have iPads and MacBooks, and it isn't because they bought the Mac first and then wanted the iPad. It's because they bought the iPad, saw that it didn't fill all of their needs, and then they ended up getting a MacBook. And believe me, when you're home and you're not doing anything, that iPad becomes a Netflix device essentially. You don't use that anymore because you understand that the MacBook is so much more comfortable to actually study or take notes or even do any type of thing. The Mac is just superior in general and for students. One thing I wish Apple would do, which I don't think they ever will, but it's something I've wanted for a long time, is for them to put Mac OS into the iPad. I think that the iPad right now, just being between the Mac and the phone, just leaves it in a very big gray area where it doesn't really belong to any sort of group. I understand that if you aren't a college student and you're a full-on creative, then yes, the iPad is completely for you. If all you do every day is draw and sketch and just create these images and things like that, then the iPad is amazing and it really is going to be a good fit for you. But for most students, ones that aren't drawing every day and that actually need a computer to do certain things, then the iPad just isn't going to fulfill your needs. So my recommendation on that would just be to get a Mac and skip the iPad. If you want something to watch something, then just watch it either on your Mac, which is a really big screen, or on your phone if you're comfortable with that. But spending $1,000 on a device that in a few months you're gonna realize doesn't complete everything you want it to do, then it's just a really big waste of money, and I honestly just can't recommend it to you guys. Again, everything I've said here is from personal experience. It's everything I experienced myself going into college, and if the iPad was as good as people say, then this video would have been completely different. But I ended up using it for about 3 to 4 months and then had to speak to my dad and then get a new Mac, because the iPad just wasn't cutting it. I know that this isn't going to be a take that everybody loves or that everybody agrees with, and if that's the case, then just let me know in the comments down below. This video really wasn't structured, so if it was all over the place, I'm sorry about that. It's just kind of a hot take that I've had for a while and that I really did want to get out there. So if you have any thoughts about what I said, any recommendations or something similar, just leave it in the comments down below and I'll try to respond whenever I can. And I guess I'll see you guys in the next video.